Hello there, and a very warm welcome to Chazingdra Chats, the show where we take a stroll through the life stories of people in the Pokemon community, discovering the 6 Pokemon on their dream team along the way. I'm Charlie Merriman, merry by name, merry by nature, otherwise known as Chazingdra, a host and commentator for the Pokemon Video Game Championship Series and a content creator. And as always, I very much hope that my guest and I can make your day merry because I have the honour and the pleasure of being joined by Courtney, otherwise known as GlitchxCity. Courtney, how are you?
Me? Oh.
Yeah, you.
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty hydrated. Got some push-ups in this morning. Had a couple meetings. Worked on some music. And I'm excited to talk about Pokemon. I feel like I do that every day though. So
True, yeah. I mean, you've already had a very productive morning, Courtney, and that's wonderful to hear. I mean, what is it's early afternoon where you are? It's early evening for me here. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
time zones.
yeah, exactly.
It just hit an afternoon for me. Usually I try to get a head start in the morning because I am so great to be back in my home time zone to where
Mm.
I can be ahead of West Coast. I'm like, you're sleeping. That means I get 3 hours of gooning around.
There is a certain level of Schadenfreude, isn't there, of just being, even though they have the same amount of time in the day, still, you're up
True.
that little bit earlier. So, Glitch, a pleasure to have you on the show. For anyone who's not so familiar with you, can you give a brief introduction to yourself?
Oh, sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Glitch, also known as GlitchxCity, or if you type into Google or YouTube, it comes up as Glitch City. I do a lot of Pokemon remixes, but not just that. I am overall a music producer and a content creator, and I do some random things here and there, which we'll probably get to in a bit. But yeah, that is my introduction. What
Fantastic,
about you,
yeah.
Charlie? Have you introduced yourself? Well, you already did.
I've introduced, yeah. I think the people want to hear you, Glitch. They don't want
Valid.
to hear a lot of me. But yeah. So I'm very excited to have you on the show because, as I was saying to you just before we started recording, the aim of the show is to have on as broad a range of guests as possible, and what you do is really unique. I haven't been able to feature a guest quite like you before, so I cannot wait to take a dive into the music that you create. And I've got to give a shout out thank you to Quick Panic, Carl Wilkinson, for putting me in touch with you, someone who I had the pleasure of featuring on the show a few weeks back. And fantastic that you were up for doing this. So thanks so much, Rabi.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. Shout out to
Great.
Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. So then, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Let's get to know you a little bit better and your hand-picked team of Pokemon, your 6 Pokemon on your dream team. So, I believe what we're going to start with, appropriately, is your very first experience with Pokemon through the anime.
Mhm. So my very first experience with the anime, I think I just turned 5, and my parents also moved from the apartments to the suburbs. And both my parents worked a lot. My mom was a nurse. My dad was out on the ship working for a company as well. And so I would be put into daycare a lot. And since it was the summertime here in the States, I needed to be like, acclimated to the environment around me, get to know the kids and all that. So they put me in daycare as a freshly 5-year old getting ready to start kindergarten in the next month or so. And after recess and lunchtime, they would bring out the TV, that giant TV that they would have. And they would put in VHSs, which is videotapes for those who may not be aware these days, and it would play random Pokemon episodes. And I think at this time, we were still in the Indigo League, and these episodes would be out of order because VHSs, they never put episodes in order for whatever reason. And the very first episode of Pokemon I watched, it featured a giant Alakazam and a giant Gengar. I think this I forgot what it was called, but it was an episode after Ash getting all of his 8 badges and getting ready for the Pokemon League. And I was just like, whoa, great opening, Rap and all that. But seeing the giant Alakazam and the giant Gengar, specifically the Gengar, scared the living daylights out of me. I didn't know what exactly it was. I thought this Pokemon was this size because it was huge. I was just like, I don't like this Pokemon. And when I got my first Pokemon game a year later, I think it was Pokemon Gold. I was like 6, going on 7 years old as well. Um, I chose my starter, which was Chikorita, because Ash had a Chikorita in the anime, And it was very tough going through Pokemon Gold with a Chikorita. But when I got to Morty's gym in Egritique, they were all ghost types. And by that time, I knew that, Ghastly evolved into Haunter, and Haunter eventually evolved into Gengar. But Morty had Gengar, and I was just like, I can't do this. It's this Pokemon again. I don't like this Pokemon. And so ever since then, like I recognize that Gengar is a fan favorite for a lot of people, but every time I see it, I'm just like, I got beef with you. So Gengar is actually my least favorite Pokemon to this day. Like almost 30 years later, to this day, I got beef with Gengar.
Oh yeah, I can picture encountering Gengar for the first time when you're 5 years old, and not only Gengar, but a
Yeah.
massive Gengar. That would be
Yeah.
terrifying. That would stay with you. I can see how that would continue to haunt you. So I'm sorry that you had that experience, but clearly the episode itself left an impression on you, and you enjoyed it despite the Gengar.
Yeah. Like, forget the Alakazam. It's the Gengar I have problems with.
But I'm glad though that you were able to put your fear of Gengar to one side, and then Pokemon Gold. I think Pokemon Silver is my favorite game of all time, not just Pokemon, but just game of all time. And so I'm very much a
Yeah.
Johto Generation 2 kind of person. Would you say that as a result of being your first Pokemon game is also your favorite?
So that is a very interesting point. So, because Pokemon Gold was my first Pokemon game, I couldn't read very well. I also didn't know how to play video games very well when I was that young. And so, get this, you're going to think it's like, oh my God, I can't believe she did this. When I got Pokemon Gold, I'm like, oh my God, the intro was so great. Like that's a core memory. But I could not, for the life of me, get past Cherry Grove City. I don't know why. I don't know how. I thought going into the Pokemon Center, I like every time I talked to Nurse Joy and she would heal my Pokemon, I thought they were getting stronger. That was my thought process. And I don't know when the turning point was for me in Pokemon Gold to where I could traverse past Cherry Grove. I think when I started talking to NPCs, I think this was like months later after just being stuck in front of Nurse Joy in Cherry Grove City. I talked to the old man, and after you talk to the old man in Cherry Grove City, he gives you the town map. I thought the coloration on that town map was so vibrant and beautiful because the Game Boy Color is supposed to showcase games in color. I was like, wow, this map is so nice and inviting. And so I have fond memories of finally making it past Cherry Grove City and then getting to Faulkner and realize my Chikorita is getting mollywopped everywhere. And then going to Bugsy and then realizing that his Scyther is insane. I have so much respect for Scyther because of Pokemon Gold. Fury Cutter was so busted back then. Not so much now, but Bugsy's Scyther gave me so many issues, but I had so much respect for Faulkner, Bugsy, and especially Whitney. Oh my God. It was very tough for me as a kid with I didn't understand why Chikorita was having such a tough time, but I eventually made it past that. Also, on the note of Pokemon Gold, um, I remember taking the cartridge with me to school one day, and I was wearing overalls. Back in the 90s, early 2000s, kids wear overalls. And I had a front pocket here, and I would stick my cartridge in there. And when I got home and, got cleaned up and everything and tossed my overalls into the wash, I forgot that I left Pokemon Gold in the pocket. And my mom was like, hey, I found your game. I was like, oh, my game. Cool. And then the next time I went to go play it, my save file was gone. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll just start a new game. And then another week would happen by or pass by, and then same thing would happen. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll start another game. And then it got to the point where I think during one of the summers in grade school, every weekend, after I watched my Saturday morning cartoons, Pokemon, other shows as well, I would go to the front door in my parents' house, take my Game Boy and also that little squiggly light attachment, and pop a fresh two AA batteries into the Game Boy. And I would start a new game in Pokemon Gold and see how far I can get each time. I think I would get about 7 or 8 hours of playtime. And there were times I would make it to Cinewood, and then I would push it to Olivine, and then I would push it to Mahogany Town, do all the events in Mahogany Town. And there were times where I would get stuck in Ice Path because I didn't know how to do the puzzle. And it took quite a few weekends to figure out the puzzle. And then I would make it a Blackthorn. And I'm like, what do I do now? And I don't think I made it past Blackthorn entirely on that specific cartridge of gold, just because, the AA batteries would just fizz out, or I would get tired. I'm like, well, we try again next week. But to answer your question, Johto may have been my first region as a whole, but I honestly believe that Hoenn is my home region. And the
Okay.
reason for that is because my mom got me Pokemon Sapphire when I was 9. And for that spring break, I just played Pokemon Sapphire. Blue was my favorite color, so she got me the blue version. And I'm like, I understand how to play now. Oh my god, it's in full color. It's not like the Game Boy Color where it was just, slightly color. And I just fell in love with Hoenn. I spent so much of my last years in elementary school playing through the Hoenn region for Pokemon Sapphire. And I think Pokemon Sapphire solidified my love for Pokemon as a whole.
Wow. Okay. That was quite an odyssey. I mean, I was gonna say I had Shea Burton, trading card game caster, on for the second episode of the show, and he got very stuck in Ice Path. I've had other people talk about other places they've got stuck. No one, Glitch, no one has got stuck as early in Generation 2 as Cherry Grove City, the second city. I mean, there's a
Bro,
path
I'm
going
like
up.
6 years old.
I know, yes, no, exactly. It is. I think the age that we start playing Pokemon is a really interesting one, because I think I was roughly that age when I started playing Generation 1. I think this is why Generation 2 is my favorite, because I was just a bit young to understand all the things that were going on.
Yeah.
But and then I love that you would challenge yourself to get as far as you could in one playthrough every weekend. But wow, incredible. Well, having landed at your home region, Hoenn, now's the perfect time to ask you, what's going to be the first Pokemon joining your dream team? So as a reminder, Glitch has chosen these in advance. I have no idea what they are, so let's find out together. The aim is not to build the best competitive team in any way. It's just the Pokemon that are the most special to Glitch in some way. So let's find out. Glitch, first Pokemon on your team.
First Pokemon on my team is a Chikorita, just
Mm,
because it was my very first starter. Yes, it may not be a Hoenn Pokemon, but Johto brought me into Pokemon, even though, the Indigo League kind of got me introduced. But I just love the Chikorita line. I feel like because I started with Chikorita and Pokemon Gold, that just humbled me as a Pokemon player. And I feel like I have to speak out for grass type starters every generation. I'd be like, just give them a chance, trust me. But obviously, Chicory evolves into Bayleaf, and then it eventually evolves into Meganium. And so Meganium, honestly, would be the first Pokemon on my team. Full stop. I love Meganium. I have a bunch of plushies back here of just the Chikorita line in general, because we gotta represent. We gotta
mm.
represent.
Yeah. No, I definitely have a soft spot for that line as well. It's so interesting because in Generation 1, Bulbasaur, super effective against the first two gym leaders. You're flying
Yeah.
through, but then Chikorita, the same cannot be said as the reverse. Yeah, Chikorita has a real hard time against quite a lot of the gym leaders in Johto. It's only when you get to Kanto that the grass type really can come into its own there. So I love that you show that love for it, and I also really like the way that you say, that sort of, that humbled you as a Pokemon
Oh
trainer,
yeah.
that sort of defined your approach to the franchise. I bet that, starting Sapphire, you were like, oh, this is like playing the game on easy mode, just whatever you choose. Having had the Chikorita experience in Generation 2, but I'm also a big fan of that line, and it's fantastic to. It's nice to challenge yourself, right? To see how you can make it work, and it does have an interesting move pool. It's just, sometimes that
Oh
typing just
yeah.
doesn't stand up.
Oh yeah, 100%. What's funny in Generation 3, I honestly believe to this day that Gen 3 and 4, honestly, RSC and then Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, they had the best starter lineup. Like, you couldn't go wrong with either choices, because you would have a decent time in the early game and a decent time mid game and late game. So for Pokemon Sapphire, I actually chose Torchic as my starter because at the time I think the anime came out as well, and May chose Torchic. But for me, what's funny, I know by that time they actually had the female and male trainer options. I always thought to this day that the male trainer had better clothes than the female. I'm still mad about that. So I always chose the male trainer to start with. I'm like, his clothes is so much better than May's. And so I chose Torchic. But after going through multiple playthroughs of Sapphire, I chose Trico. I love the sprites for the Trico line, and then obviously Mudkip. You can't go wrong with either of them. You're gonna have some challenges depending on where you are in the game. Obviously, if you choose Torchic, you're gonna have a little issue in the beginning, but that's fine once you get double kick as a Combuskin. And honestly, same thing can be said for Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. But for Gen 3, I went through all the starters. They're all equally good. I do have a soft spot for the Trico line because it's just a cool Pokemon. It's so cool. But I think Blaziken is also really cool.
It's definitely a cool Pokemon. Trico was my first partner Pokemon of choice in Generation 3
Ah,
as well.
let's
So
go.
there we go. A lot of love coming out for the grass types here. Okay, well then, Courtney, from there, your trading card game experience.
Oh, geez. So I actually made a video on my second channel about my TCG experience. I don't play. I know how to play, but I don't play. I'm more of a collector because I'm like, ooh, pretty cardboard. I like this Pokemon. So with TCG, obviously in the 90s, Pokemon was huge. It was everywhere. Like it was and here in the States, we have a place called Party City where you can get like themed anything to host like a birthday party. And back then, Pokemon had its own huge, gigantic section because all the kids were raving about Pokemon. The 90s was crazy. And so obviously, when you go to school, everyone's bringing Pokemon cards. My mom bought me Pokemon cards, and I would bring them to school and I would trade. Um, and that continued on for at least the next year or so. And when I was in second grade, I'll be honest, I was not the, well, best behaved kid. And I would have my Pokemon cards confiscated by my parents so I can focus more on my studies and schoolwork and stuff. But my TCG experience overall is just collecting. I have a bunch of e readers as well that I was able to harvest and save from my parents, and some older cards, but not quite too much from like the first and second generation, but a lot of third generation. Um, and I'm very proud of these e-readers. Like they're not in the best condition, but I have like this holographic Golem EX card where it's like the holographic background is purple and Golem's just like his face is just taking over the entire card. And I think that card is so sick. I have like a Blaziken e-reader as well. I didn't have an e-reader scanner at all. I just liked the cool ridges on the side, and I thought that was amazing. And when Fortune came around, how old was I when Fortune came out? I think it was like middle school, late middle school, early high school. And I think at that time, I started watching YouTube. This is when YouTube started to become a thing. Very, very young YouTube. And there was a specific channel called Primetime Pokemon. And he would literally just go through his own collection and he would take the camcorder and put his cards in front of him and just go through them, be like, oh, I like this card. Oh, this is my favorite. And he would go to Walmart and buy a product and open it up in front of that camcorder, and his subscribers would mail him Pokemon cards, be like, hey, here's some extras I've had to add to your collection. And so after school, after I went through like my usual like, YouTube subscribe like my subscriber box, I would watch Primetime Pokemon, be like, oh, he uploaded, what cards is he gonna get? And I would watch him. I'm like, oh man, I miss getting Pokemon cards, because like there was a period of time where I really had to focus on school and I couldn't really do much. And he started talking about, I think early at this time, we didn't get a lot of trailers that we do today for like new games and stuff. So when Heart Gold Soul Silver was coming out, they also had a TCG release, and he started talking about just the games and then the card itself. I'm like, what? Gold? Silver? So they're doing a fire red leaf green, but for gold and silver. That's so cool. I want the game. I also want the Pokemon cards. And so Not only did I pre-order Pokemon Heart Gold and I got like a whole pre-order bonus, but I asked my mom, I was like, "Hey mom, can you take me to like Walmart to get some Pokemon cards?" So I had some Diamond and Pearl and a bunch of Heart Gold, Soul Silver cards as well, which I think those sets, Triumphant, Unleashed, and there's like one more. I think it was Base Heart Gold, Soul Silver. That it's just my absolute favorites because it takes me back to the Pokemon Gold and Silver days where I first got into Pokemon. But they also introduced the dual cards as well, which was a first. So Ho-Oh had a dual card, Lugia had a dual card, Rayquaza, Deoxys did, and then the Legendary Bees. And then what's really cool about those sets is that the energy cards that you would get, it would have like a silhouette background of a typing of that Pokemon, which I thought was so cool. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. So shout out to you too for getting me back into Pokemon TCG literally like 15 plus years ago.
Well, it comes around full circle, doesn't it? Based on what you're
Yeah.
doing now with YouTube, that's so interesting. And going right back to what you said at the beginning of this section, can confirm the '90s were wild. I just wanted to throw in that confirmation. Yeah, it was the phenomenon that Pokemon was, and so that's yeah. So really, your way into Pokemon YouTube was through the trading card game. So I can see why that's said in particular, and why TCG has such a special place for you, even though you don't play it yourself. And this is the thing, right? It's be it the video games or the trading card game or what have you. You can take it as far as you want to take it. It's you
Oh
can just
yeah.
do a casual playthrough. You can just collect the cards, or you can go all the way and try and compete. But that's so fascinating to hear. Do you have a favorite Pokemon card?
I do. I have a lot of favorites, but just recently I'm like starting like my own portfolio online of like my collection so I can keep track and be like, "Oh yeah, I really like this card." But again, a full circle, the Meganium Prime card from Heart Gold Soul Silver. It was a promo, but I really like the Prime cards, and they did bring it back for the 25th anniversary for celebrations. I'm like, Prime cards, y'all don't know about this. But my second favorite card is a reverse hollow Squirtle e-reader, and the artist is Yuka Mori. And
Mm.
she does all the clay art for the Pokemon cards. And I didn't even realize that. I was like, oh my gosh, she made the Squirtle card. The Squirtle is so cute. Like if you look it up, you're like, oh my god. I don't even like Squirtle like that, but I love that card. The coloration on the clay model matches the reverse hollow sheen on it. I'm like, this is such a good card. Oh my god.
And the tears just flow. Well, we're
Yeah.
going to flow from there onto the second Pokemon joining your dream team, Glitch. So, who's going to be joining Meganium?
So Meganium was my first Pokemon choice, but I never got into what my favorite Pokemon was.
Mm.
Dragonair. So Dragonair will be my second favorite Pokemon, or my second Pokemon on my team. It's actually my number one favorite Pokemon, but the Chikorita line, Meganium, has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I did wonder. You had the Dragonair wrapped around your little microphone arm there. I knew it was going to be making an appearance at some point. So I guess the
True.
natural next question is, why Dragonair?
Okay, so so little bit of a awakening for me from a very young age. So when I went through Pokemon Gold and I actually made it to Blackthorn City, there was a couple times where I actually made it to Claire. Very tough because the team I was running was like, hit or miss, and I just be like, Meganium, body slam, please, body slam and cut. And I believe Claire's ace was the Kingdra, but she had two or three Dragonairs on her team. And in the anime episode for Master Quest, I think it was Master Quest at that time, uh, the anime really showed off Dragonair. I'm like, wow, it can fly. It can, but and honestly, I didn't know this about myself at the time because for those of you who are not aware, I identify as bisexual, and I feel like Claire was my bisexual awakening. And I didn't know it at the time until I got older. I'm like, I like this gym leader, and I like this Pokemon she has. And not only that, in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Lance, who was part of the Elite Four, remember, he also had Dragonaires
Hmm.
in Red, Blue, and Yellow. I don't think he had it in Gold, Silver, Crystal. I think they all evolved into Dragonite. Um, and Claire and Lance are related. They're cousins, which I think is so cool. I'm also a big fan of the Pokemon mangas. So when they showed Claire and Lance with their Dragonairs and Dragonites, I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Um, I love Dragonair. Not a big fan of Dragonite. Dratini is a cutie, but Dragonair is so cool. It's my favorite color. I love dragons. It has air in the name. I love flying. So I'm like, this is the perfect Pokemon for me. But my headcanon is that if I was an actual, like, I had credibility as a Pokemon trainer, my Dragonair would be so lazy. So lazy. Like, I wake up in the morning to get ready for the day, my Dragonair just laid out on the couch. I'm like, are you going to get up and train or not? That is my headcanon.
Wow. That really goes a long way. We've got hey, we nearly have the whole line here. I've got my Dratini back here. You might be able to see just
Okay.
behind me a little plus you've got your Dragonite there. Don't have the Dragonite, but I do love hearing that Claire shout out because my favorite Pokemon
I
is
saw the
Kingdra.
Kingdra. Yeah.
That's right. Don't know why I'm holding it by its snout there. That's pretty good. There we
I
go.
don't think Kingdra appreciates that,
No,
but you know
no,
what?
definitely not. I see. Wow, what an if you're going to stand up, there we go. What an interesting connection you have there to Dragonair, and it's also fantastic to hear some love being shown for the middle stage evolutions. I think this is
Oh
something
yeah.
I say a lot. We need to stop seeing the middle stage evolutions as just a stop that we're passing through. They can be an end in themselves, they can be the
Yeah.
final destination if we want. We've got to appreciate them in that middle stage while we can. Wow, incredible. Okay, so Dragonair, your favorite Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Does that tie in with Dragon being a favorite type, maybe, or is it not?
Ah, dang, you can read me like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So dragon is my favorite typing. Grass is second, and then flying is third.
Ooh, okay. You've got a well defined top three. I think, yeah. I've been working on my top five actually, and you
Okay.
say I can read you, I can just pick up that sense, but there is a massive clue behind you as to your love for the dragon type. I don't know where I'm getting this from. I just get the sense, yeah. 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 Oh, there's an Altaria there. Didn't even notice. Yeah. So makes a lot of sense. Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks for that, Glitch. And now from there, seems like we're going to start introducing the music thread to your lore
Ooh.
with choir and then an awakening at a family reunion.
Okay, so I feel like I had just scoot that a little bit over there. You get a
There
little
we
bit
go.
of Altaria. Um, I had a really late start to music. I didn't really learn traditionally like a lot of other musicians and producers. Actually, a lot of producers don't really learn traditionally these days either. Look at Dead Mouse. Um, but my time in choir, so when I got into middle school here in the States, middle school kind of varies between seventh and eighth grade. Mine was sixth through eighth grade. So I was there for 3 years. In sixth grade, we had a class called rotation where you would take 3 courses throughout your entirety of the school year. It would be music, theater, and art to kind of like get you exposed to extracurriculars outside of just your normal studies. And so for me, my first rotation class was music. And my choir teacher, I think this was her second year at the school, but she knew her stuff. And she was also a very, very strict teacher, even to the music kids, which is completely different from choir. Um, and you basically get taught the basic stuff from music, notes, a little bit of music theory, but not too in depth. You will listen to songs and then write how you would feel, and then you would try to practice reading some sheet music. She was very strict. I'm like, oh my god, this teacher, I don't know if I can handle this class. It's just music class. This is not like elementary where they give you a recording, you just boop 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 boop. But at the end of our time with the class, on the very last day of that music class, she went around the classroom and she pointed to each kid saying, "You should take my choir class when you get into seventh grade." And she pointed to me, be like, "You should take my choir class next year." And I'm like, huh. And after that music class, they put me in theater. I didn't really like theater that much, and then after theater they put me to art, and art was fine. But what stuck with me, because we were getting ready to pick our courses for the next school year as I was entering seventh grade, and as a seventh grader you get a choice of an elective, which would be one of the music courses, which would be choir, band, or orchestra, uh, theater, art, and like one other course, which I think is like woodworking or something. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pick choir because that teacher said she wanted me in her class. And when I got into seventh grade, whoa boy, it was like a 180 from music. She was more strict, like she's more strict on her choir students because they go to competitions. You're learning way more music theory, and you're actually applying yourself a lot more than you did in music. Like music was like baby elementary, and now you're getting into the real hard stuff, like you're learning how to sight read. I'm like, do re mi fa sol la ti do, what's that? And so I learned quite a bit in her class. And there were times where I'm not looking forward to going to the class each day, be like, oh, she's going to make me do this, this, and this, and this. I'm not confident enough in my voice. I'm not confident in my sight reading. Oh my God, we're going to competition. Because in seventh grade, you had I think we were junior varsity women's choir, or the girls choir. Yeah, junior varsity girls choir. She also had a boys choir as well, because they were separate at the time. And when I was in my choir class, I think I was at the time, because my voice changed throughout the years, I was a second soprano. So not very high, but like in the middle, close to the mid range, close to alto. And so I learned a lot of music theory. I learned how to pick out notes from hearing music at the time, but I didn't know what that was called. And then as between the year of seventh grade and eighth grade, my parents took me to a family reunion, to where whenever you go to a family function, you're like, who are these relatives? You know me since I was a kid? What? There was an aunt that we went to her house after for like a dinner or something after the function. And she had a keyboard, a piano keyboard. And I'm like, I don't want to socialize with adults and my cousins. And I'm like, I'm gonna turn this piano on and just play notes. And hopefully I won't get in trouble. And I started playing songs that I would hear from Pokemon. And so I'm just like picking out the notes on the keyboard. I have no idea what these notes are. I'm just like, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And I didn't realize that the way that I go about music still to this day is not the traditional C, D, E, F, G, A, B. I read the keys on the piano as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, still to this day. And so I'm playing like Route One from Red and Blue, because eventually I got my hands on Pokemon Red at that time, and then I started playing like a little bit of the trainer battle theme from Gold and Silver, a bit, some Ruby and Sapphire themes too. And then the aunt came over. She's like, "Girl, have you been taking lessons?" And I'm like, "No." And so she goes to my mom, tells her, "You need to get her into piano lessons. You need to get this girl a keyboard." And when we got home that first week, my mom picked out a teacher that lived close to my grandma, and I took that one lesson with her, and I did not like the way she taught. I don't know, it's because I was so used to learning through the choir methods, and she was teaching me the traditional method, which I was not. I was like, wait, this is totally different from what I experience in choir. Maybe it was just me not translating well between traditional and the way I was doing it, but I told my mom, hey, for my birthday, can I get like a tiny keyboard, and I'm just going to learn on my own, just buy some bucks and I'll figure it out. And that's exactly what she did. And so she got me this, I think it was a Yamaha. It was either Yamaha or a Casio, but it was a 61 key non weighted keyboard. And the reason why I'm stressing non weighted is because as I was learning and I'm practicing and I'm like banging on this keyboard, I would snap my keys off of the keyboard. And I'm just like, oh no. And like, I was really trying to get things down. I would pull up YouTube looking up anime intros, because I'm big into anime. and I'm pulling up other people playing the piano. There really wasn't a lot of piano tutorials on YouTube at the time. So what I did, the first song I decided to really learn, and I don't know why I did this to this day, was the Red, Blue, and Yellow Train of Battle theme. And this video is still up on YouTube. It was this kid, I don't even think it's the original channel that uploaded, but it was this kid playing on a traditional piano, and he was going in. He was playing all parts of that Train of Battle theme. And I'm like, I want to learn that. And I spent months trying to get the intro down. It is going down that chromatic scale like, oh my god. I think I got it down to this day, but I haven't practiced it in a while. But I decided that that would be the first song I fully learned on the piano, and I did after like months and months and months, and then it turned into years. A lot of keys snapped in that time. And what's funny is that while my dad was away from work, I would go into the garage in his toolbox and like get like this like hot glue, and I would hot glue the keys back into place. And I'm like, I have to play this key very softly so it doesn't snap again. And so it got to a point where 9 keys snapped off, and there's just a gluey mess. But like it played the note, so it works.
Wow.
But if it wasn't for my aunts noticing that I had some type of talent and encouraging my mom to, try to push for that, I probably been be here talking to you, honestly. Honestly, if it wasn't for
Wow.
choir, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Wow. Just goes to show, in that instance, you were right to follow your instinct and go, I'm going to play the piano. I'm not going to, I'll say hello to my cousins and so on when I can, but my priority right now is playing the piano. That is a phenomenal origin story. Also, I love with these keys that were glued back on. I love the idea that like you're recording Route 1 from Pokemon Red, but then you have to hit one of those notes softly. So it's like bum bum
Just
bum
like
bum bum
softly with the
bum 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 bum
Yep.
and that's what it's immortalized as. Um, wow. So yeah, and when you were talking about the intro to the Pokemon Red Blue trainer battle music, and yeah, you're right. The decreasing chromatic.
Yep.
Wow, that's that, and that is quite. That's a real tough one to start with as well. To start your Pokemon music learning journey with. That's and then yeah, so it all goes from there. So your entrance was watching essentially Pokemon trading card game pack openings, and then from there discovered, oh, I can teach myself the music from the games
Yeah.
too. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing. I mean, we already know where ultimately that's got you, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the next chapter is. But before, let's see who's going to be the third Pokemon joining in Dream Team. So who is going to be joining
Ah,
Meganium and Dragonair?
Meganium Dragonair. Ah, Houndoom.
Okay,
Yeah.
Houndoom. Very cool. You've got a nice green, blue, and sort of red color scheme going on already. This interesting. Okay, so tell us more.
So I'm not overall a big fan of fire types. I personally don't like fire myself. I get nervous around it in real life, but I personally love just Houndoom's design. It's like if a Cerberus only had one head, that's Houndoom. I just really like the aspect of the Pokemon. I thought Houndour was a cutie, and in Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, you don't even get access to it until Kanto, but you see Karen use it in the Elite Four. I'm like, where do I get this Pokemon? And there was an episode in the anime where think I think it was a Houndoom. It was like a not a delivery, I guess a delivery Houndoom. Like it would be carrying a satchel and helping out other Pokemon. I think it helped out Misty's Togepi. I'm like, oh my god, this is such a good dog Pokemon. And I think all dogs are good dogs. And so I feel like Houndoom's just a good girl, you know? Just handy around the house, will protect you in need. I would give it headbats, be like, who's a good girl? And Houndoom's sack would just be waggling. Um, yeah, nothing battle wise. I just think it's a really cool Pokemon. Honestly, I think the shiny's great as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Sometimes that's all that's necessary for a Pokemon to speak to us. The design, just the vibe that you get from it. You don't necessarily need an in-depth experience with that Pokemon. It's so interesting
Yeah.
to hear about. I hadn't remembered until then Houndoom sort of with a satchel delivering messages. What is it about these massive, powerful Pokemon that they just slap messenger bags on and suddenly they're,
Like Dragonite.
exactly, yeah. Suddenly the power is sort of, it's there, but they're
It's
just
also
doing jack of
cute.
all trades.
Yep.
um, Houndoom, okay, interesting. And then Dark as well, Dark and Fire type. So pretty good type diversity so far. We'll see if that's kept up. But all right, so
Ooh.
let's go from there onto this topic was bound to come up at some point. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of YouTube.
Oh, geez. All right. So I told you like I've basically been on YouTube since literally 2004, 2005. Obviously not with the same channel because YouTube and Google had their merge. That's a different story. But I remember my first YouTube video. I'm big into anime, so there was I was also into the Pokemon community forums at the time. So this was before MySpace became a thing. There was a site called Zanga, which was basically beta MySpace, and there was someone who posted an anime music video. I didn't know they were called AMVs at the time, and it featured one of my favorite anime of all time, which was Inuyasha. And I'm like, that's a video playing a bunch of Inuyasha clips with Linkin Park in the back. And so I clicked the link, the embed link. So YouTube embeds were so different back then. But at the bottom right, I believe, if you click the YouTube link, it would take you to the site. And it looks so much different from how it was back then. And that's how I got introduced to YouTube as a whole. And I would be watching a bunch of anime music videos, so Inuyasha, Naruto, Bleach, Full Metal Alchemist, and at the time there was also a bunch of cat videos, a bunch of random funny videos. Like old school YouTube was like a weird but innocent place where people just uploaded videos for fun. Be like, oh, I have this home video of my dog doing something silly. I'm going to upload it. Or, oh, Charlie bit my finger. And then Keyboard Cat and all these other YouTubers like Mystery Guitar Man who would just be like doing finger guitars. I'm like, yo, that's so sick. And then how I discovered people would be playing piano and then uploading their videos to YouTube. Kyle Landry is one of the guys that I would watch and just study his videos and trying to play it from ear, just try to play it back. And YouTube spoofs and poops were also a thing where it would be people drawing on either MS Paint or Microsoft Flash and then uploading those animations to YouTube. There was a bunch of Newgrounds content that would get cross posted to YouTube as well. And just so much awesome content that spurred this today. There was some Pokemon channels I watched back then. There was like Mystery Mirage, and he would just like he wouldn't even talk. It would just be images and text about like Pokemon Emerald, how official events were happening in the US. Like I remember they were celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Pokemon. I think it was like Fire Red and Leaf Green. And I was living in Houston, Texas at the time, and they were doing like a distribution at the what is it called? The Space Center, the Johnson Space Center, and I think that was for Deoxys. I could be wrong. Oh no, it was an Eon ticket. It was an Eon ticket for Ruby Sapphire Emerald. I couldn't go because yeah, I'm like I'm like 10. I don't have a card, but I was like, people are like doing like Pokemon content and stuff. Smosh when they started singing the Pokemon theme song. It was such a thing back then. And I'm like, I want to make YouTube videos too. Not the videos that you see today, but me literally going to Windows Movie Maker, going on Paint and just drawing terribly. Like I would draw each frame like they're animated and dump it into Windows Movie Maker, and I would grab like a music file from LimeWire, rest in peace LimeWire at the time, and put like Beethoven in there. It would be like a 40-second YouTube video, but I would spend like a whole day after school working on it. And then I would upload it and we get like tens of thousands of views. I'm like, people like this. I'm gonna make more. I think I made like 3 of those. And then I started making anime music videos. But instead of having like clips, like actual video clips of the anime, I would have GIFs from MySpace and I would make the video that way. And I would put like my favorite band is Sum 41, so I put a lot of Sum 41 in there as well. And then I saw Pokemon anime music videos. So at the time, uh, Ash just finished his Silver Conference, and they were getting ready to go into the Hoenn region. So a lot of the music videos would be Ash's battles against Harrison and Gary at the time. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And then I started making videos, but I was still consuming a lot of YouTube. I was on Pokemon community forums back then, the Cerebi forums as well, and we were just talking about Pokemon. Be like, oh, I got to this spot. Game FAQs where people would put not so great information about games. Be like, you can find a Bulbasaur right below the area in Pallet Town. I go in my Pokemon Leaf Green. I'm like, where's Bulbasaur? I can't get Bulbasaur. Why are you lying to me on the internet? And then we would speculate about, if Team Rocket did this, what would happen to the Pokemon world? Or if you said yes to the Team Rocket grunt on the Nugget Bridge, what would you do as a Team Rocket grunt? And it was just such a fun time being on the internet. It was so innocent back then, but everyone was just happy to share their passion for Pokemon. And then you had channels started talking about Pokemon news or speculating Pokemon news coming up and stuff. And so I think this was around when Heart Gold, Soul Silver was following Pokemon Platinum. Platinum was still pretty new, but like the speculation for Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Gold and Silver remakes, it fits the timeline. We had Fire Red, Leaf Green 3 or 4 years ago. Now it's Gold and Silver's time. I'm like, no way, no way. And then the news broke out. I remember seeing the trailer for Heart Gold, Soul Silver. I got so stoked. I'm like, oh, the DS. This is so cool. And you would have channels like old school old but gold, one of the goats of Pokemon let's plays back in the late 2000s, Leroy literally grab a camera, put it in front of his DS, and he would treat it as like a walkthrough as well because he had the guide as well. And I'm like, this is so cool. I would watch those videos to like trying to get through my games as well. And then I think around like a little bit after Heart Gold Soul Silver, this is when Google merged with YouTube and everything changed. And that channel I had so many copyright strikes because the content I uploaded. And I'm like, oh man, I want to let you know the name Glitch City has stuck with me since I was like 12.
Mm.
Because on MySpace, I was like, oh, Glitch City is an area in Pokemon Red and Blue, which it is. It is. It got the name through just community. It was like a community thing. There wasn't like an official name, and I decided to be like my online persona, Glitch City, no X yet. And on YouTube, because my favorite anime was Inuyasha, my username was Inuyasha Glitch City. Don't look it up. You're not gonna find it. Trust me. It's so cringe. It is so cringe, but I'm owning it. I'm owning it. And because the content that I uploaded, which were just YouTube poops at the time, got copyright strike. I'm like, oh man, maybe I can appeal it by making another channel, name it Glitch City. But Glitch City was like taken at the time, so I'm like, okay, let me just put the X here between the glitch and the city for temporary, so I can use this to try to appeal for the other channel, so I could get that back. Yeah, that didn't work. I got two channels deleted, and I was just stuck with GlitchxCity. I'm like, well, dang. And the reason why that happened, I tried to make a video response to one of the news breaking out about, I think it was black and white. Black and white news was being officially announced and stuff. And back then, YouTube had a video responses where someone would watch a video and they're like, oh, I really like this. I'm going to make a video response instead of a comment to this video, and it shows up under the video. And I wanted to make a video response to the news about black and white, sharing how I'm excited, speculation of what I think, the gym leaders would be, different types of Pokemon. And because I uploaded that video to my original channel, that ended up getting the channel terminated because I was using, copyrighted music and stuff, which is a no-no. It's a no-no on YouTube. And I was just like, well, not only are video responses gone, but also that channel was gone. And so with my current channel, which was made in 2011, I think I was still in high school. Yeah, like junior, senior year of high school. I think it was junior year. Um, I'm like, well, I'm stuck with this channel, GlitchxCity. I want to make Pokemon content because that's what I liked watching and I think it's fun. But I didn't know what I wanted to do, if that made sense. So I wanted to share my passion for Pokemon. I didn't know how. And so I'm like, well, I watch a lot of news coverage of Pokemon. Let's try that. But I didn't have a microphone. So I was just using text to like show news and stuff. I'm like, well, I'm not happy with this video. What about the manga? I can talk about the manga with text. I'm very passionate about that. Didn't work out. What about playing through Pokemon Diamond? Grab a camcorder, record me playing through Pokemon Diamond. No, not that either. And I was just trying random different things. I was even doing like, weird graphic design for Pokemon as well. Like you just grab like a PNG and just put like brushes everywhere and stuff. And I was making videos on that. People like that, but I didn't really like that per se. And there was also another channel I was watching, especially when I was studying when I was in school, and it was called Poke Remix Studio. And what that channel was, literally what it is, Pokemon remixes. And so when I was done with my studies, I would start reading the Pokemon manga and have his channel remixes playing in the background while I was reading. It's like be like fully immersed in what's going on. And as I was figuring out what videos to make for my YouTube channel, I'm like, let's try Pokemon remixes. Why not? And so I looked at what program he was using. He was using FL Studio. I didn't have the money for FL Studio. So I'm like, okay, free music programs for Windows. And so I downloaded Mixcraft. And I think those remixes are still up on my channel. Oh, jeez. But I tried, what was my first mix? Oh god, it's terrible. I actually had my wife listen to it not too long ago and she's like, "What were you on?" I'm like, "Girl, I don't know." My first remix that I tried to make was Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow trainer battle theme. But what I did was so I just want to cringe when I talk about it. I wanted to combine. At the time, there were 4 versions of that trainer battle theme. You had Red, Blue, and Yellow's version, Gold and Silver's, Fire Red and Leaf Green, which is my opinion the best arrangement, and Heart Gold Soul Silver's. And so I wanted to mesh those 4 together to make a singular Kanto trainer battle theme, and it's not very good. It's not. I have the video on my channel. It is privated for good reason, but I have it as a humble reminder of where I came from.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, in order to then get to where you are now, you had to do that sort of thing, right? You had to experiment
Yeah.
and then ultimately learn what worked, what didn't. So I hope actually that you can look back on that with pride. But wow, I mean, this is the thing with each of these episodes. Each individual life story segment could be an episode in its own right. But I will call out I love the nostalgic throwbacks to LimeWire, Sum41, MySpace. Wow. Loving hearing that again. And also an unwelcome reminder of Charlie Bit My Finger, because you can imagine with my name at school, that was quoted at me a lot.
Oh no.
But yeah, no, it's fascinating to be reminded of that again. But I love how, fundamentally, I love how it comes full circle that you started just trying to work out on the piano these Pokemon themes, and then YouTube becomes a thing. You're working out, oh, what sort of content do I want to make? And then you realize, another full circle moment, hey, the answer was there all along. I make these Pokemon remixes. So, wow, okay, so now it's time to interject and ask you who's
Oh.
going to be joining Meganium, Dragonair, and Houndoom on your dream team.
All right, so we got Meganium, Dragonair, Houndoom, Hitmontop.
Okay,
A lot of
Hitmontop.
Johto Pokemon.
Yeah,
A lot
absolutely.
of Johto Pokemon.
I mean, I'm a massive fan of that, but why Hitmontop?
It's a cool Pokemon. I have a sitting cutie. He doesn't spin, but he sits. I always thought Hitmontop was a cool Pokemon. We had Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee. Johto was such an experimental generation, and they were like, why not make it a thing? And then we were introduced to Tyrogue, and back then we didn't know how to get Hitmontop, so it was just a gamble when it evolved. Obviously, a lot easier now these days, but he's just a cool dude, you know? Very good competitively in singles. And then I think also in Gold and Silver, Bruno had Hitmontop as well. And then when abilities were introduced in Gen 3, it got access to Intimidate, which I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And you can do rapid spin, get rid of those stealth rocks. He's just a cool dude.
Well, I mean, also in doubles in competitive video game Pokemon, him on top has been good and still sees a little bit of play with Intimidate, and yeah, it's certainly got
Yeah.
a utility there. It's so amazing to think back to. Yeah, is it so exciting when, as you say, that gamble of which of the three is it going to evolve into? You just have to work it out for yourself. I love how sometimes the games really have to make us think hard about how do I actually find that? How do I have to think really analytically about it? Yeah, finding the Tyrogue Mount Mortar, the fighting
Oh.
master, have to go on that side quest to find it. So fascinating. Okay, so him on top for you is sort of
hmm
a great design, but also because you enjoyed playing singles. That is those are the main reasons why him on top makes your dream team.
I didn't really play singles that much. If anything, I
Okay,
watched a lot of singles,
I see.
and realized the utility that Hitmontop had. I'm like, this Pokemon that's not really looked at a lot is useful in a battle format. That's
Mm,
really cool. Good for
yeah.
you, Hitmontop. He's just a cool dude.
Right, yeah, cool dude. Okay, well, and another type that isn't repeated on your team yet with fighting. So
Ah.
we're going from there to Pokemon Symphonics.
Oh, okay. So Pokemon Symphonics. So I started my current channel in 2011, going through like a lot of trial and error in the beginning until I'm like, yeah, Pokemon remixes. I think it only took about 2 to 3 months to get settled on that. And then Black and White came out. Whew, I got a story about Pokemon Black and White 2, specifically for my channel, which is a funny one. Which, side note, actually, so Pokemon Black and White 2, back then Pokemon game releases happened within between 6 months and a year apart depending on your region. So Japan would always get the game first, while the US or North America would have to wait 6 months to get it. And so people had their hands on they would import the game and they would have their hands on the game uh first before anybody in North America would. And of course people would do playthroughs of the game because people were just like so fiending for like the games, and then they want to see to just what to expect for when they actually get the game as well. And then obviously the content cycle. And so me, Pee-wee 2012 YouTube brain, I'm like, who's a champion? What are the battle themes? I gotta know. And so I'm like looking up these like playthroughs and stuff, both from English and the Japan side. And I'm like, oh, Iris is a champion. And I think it was the second night after people started getting their copies that I spent all night at my parents' place working on a remix for Iris. And I think, yeah, I finished it that night, uploaded it that morning, literally no checks whatsoever. And on my titling and my thumbnail, literally Pokemon Black and White 2 Champion Iris Remix. And the thumbnail was Iris with her Haxorus. And people were mad. They were so mad. At that time, my channel was growing, but that video specifically, that remix, just shot me up through the chart. Like, people were mad, but it was also that curiosity because people who didn't have the game yet, they're like, Champion Iris. Oh, this theme is great. Oh my god. But a lot of the comments, I don't know how far we can sort through comments on these older videos, but they were mad. They're like, it was getting I think at that time we had like and dislikes because before it was a 5-star rating, but it was getting disliked bombed by people who didn't want to be spoiled yet. And then after like 2 days of just like, I'm not gonna look at YouTube comments, the video just took off. It like people think the Cynthia remix put me on the map. No, it was Iris because people did not like getting spoiled. And boy, did I learn a lesson that day. But moving forward to Pokemon Symphonics, 2013, I was doing a lot of X and Y because X and Y came out. And then 2014, I was very like in tune with the community at the time. I was doing this like what we're doing now, being interviewed and talking about just Pokemon in general. But there was someone in the community that went by Safazon. He still goes by Safazon, and he's like, "Hey, Pokemon Symphonics is a thing, and what that is a Pokemon orchestra. And they were going on tour. They were going to debut at Pokemon World in DC in 2014. And they were reaching out to YouTubers, Pokemon YouTubers, to help promote the symphony and then obviously get invited to the symphony and watch. I'm like, oh wow, that's so cool. I love Pokemon. I love music. I never been to an official orchestra before. Why not? And so for the next couple of months or so leading up to Pokemon Worlds, I would do a couple videos, be just like mentioning Pokemon Symphonics, Pokemon World in general, because I've never been to a Pokemon event. I didn't even know Pokemon Worlds was a thing until my friend brought that up. And so it was a very interesting experience going through that. I think that was like my first big moment, just touching anything that I really really liked. And I also think that year was the first year I traveled for the first time. I went to my first PAX, which was PAX East earlier that year. So 2014 was like really huge. I'm like seeing all these people that I made friends with online. I'm going to my first Pokemon event. But Pokemon Symphonics, it was being held in DC. So I actually got to meet up with one of my best friends, Super Duper Danny, at the time. And what's funny is that we took a picture at Pokemon Worlds, like, and the photographer was like an official something for the website pokemon.com, and we actually ended up on the front page for the world site. And we have to find that picture, it's so funny. But the day before the world's event actually started, Pokemon Symphonics was a thing. And so what I didn't know is that one of the composers, producers, and directors, Junichi Masuda, was going to be there. And I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, he made my childhood. He assisted in making my childhood. But the great thing about the symphony was great. Like, I actually had the opportunity to hear some of it prior to the show being put on. The arrangements were so good. It went all the way from Red and Blue all the way to X and Y, because X and Y was already out, or as was already announced. And so I think my favorite arrangement was Route 113. I don't know if it's on YouTube anywhere, but it is so good. Like, I probably cried quite a few times throughout the entire event. They did wonders with Diamond and Pearl's music. When they hit Route 209, I'm like, it's so beautiful. And best part, at the end of the symphony, they brought Mr. Masuda's son out for an encore. And I kid you not, he was going to conduct the song Kiseki, which plays at the end of Pokemon X and Y when you're doing the march towards AZ. But before he was getting ready to start conducting, he turned around to the audience, he gave a smile, he turned back to the orchestra, he bent over, flipped his tail on the coat of his suit, and revealed a Pikachu tail. And then he was conducting Kiseki with a Pikachu tail. We're just like, oh my god, oh my god. And so Pokemon Symphonics was definitely a turning point. I had a rejuvenation for music as a whole, not just within Pokemon, but I got to see a lot of people within the Pokemon community. I went to my first event. This was also the infamous championship where Seijun Park won. So 2014 was very near and dear to my heart. This will actually be the 10-year anniversary I went to my first Pokemon event, because I'll be going to Worlds again. And I'm just like, oh man, we've come so far. We've come so far. But just Pokemon Symphonics was a blessing, and I've been to multiple tours of Symphonics as well. So not just DC. I went to one in San Antonio. Actually made the effort to fly to London to see that showing as well, and I got to meet a lot of the European creators as well. I was just like, oh my god, you live here? That's so great. We're here for Pokemon music. But Symphonics was such a good time. I wish they would bring it back. Bring back Pokemon orchestras. So
yeah, I would
one
love to attend one of those concerts as well. But wow, yeah, what a seminal time to be recording with you, Glitch, given that, as you say, this is the 10-year anniversary of your first live Pokemon event, your first Worlds. The favorite piece that you mentioned, did you say Route 113?
Yeah, Route 113 back in
Remind me
Hoenn.
how that goes.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun,
yeah, 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 yeah,
dun,
yeah.
dun, dun,
Where
dun,
the
bow,
ash is
bow.
falling
Yeah,
and
right next to Fall
Skarmory
Harbor Town.
Spinder. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. That's so cool that one was your favorite. I'd love to have heard all the arrangements they did. And yeah, Sage and Park, of course, famous for winning that 2014 World Championships with a Pachirisu, a very small and cute and fun Pokemon, which no one really had seen the competitive potential of before Sage and Park. But okay, Glitch, it's time now to segue into your fifth Pokemon on your dream team.
You're gonna love this one. Golduck.
Hey, Golduck.
Again, just a cool dude. He's a cool dude. I remember the episode in the Orange Islands where Missy thought her Psyduck evolved into Golduck, and Golduck's just like, yeah, yeah. And Psyduck's just like, what? Um, Golduck is just a really cool dude. And I think it was one of the Gold Silver Crystal sprites that they made Golduck look so amazingly cool. I'm like, oh my god, this is a cool Pokemon. And I think honestly, the best sprite for Golduck is Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. Cause it just, I don't know. Ruby and Sapphire specifically, Golduck just looks amazing. He's just like, grr, grr, grr,
Oh,
grr.
yeah.
I'm like, yo, that's my man. He's on the team. Let's go.
Wow, okay. It's really interesting that quite a few of your choices so far. Yes, you had, for example, the Megadium, the first partner that you had, but a lot of them are just I like the vibe. You don't necessarily have a specific memory, etc., attached to that Pokemon.
Just vibes.
But that in-depth knowledge of the sprites as well is so yeah. Well, I think a lot of people can connect to that. Something I've gone into doing on the streams that I do is trying to imitate Pokemon cries for people to guess. And there are people like, well, how can you remember all of these? But I don't know. For me, they're just so ingrained, hard to replicate in human form. But
Oh
the
yeah.
Pokemon cries are registered in there. But Golduck, okay, fantastic. All right. So before we discover the final Pokemon on your dream team, let's talk about right now. All grown up, moving, and moving again.
Oh man. All grown up. Oh man. So a lot of my YouTube career was for at least for this channel, since I've been on YouTube literally since like 2004, was spent through high school and then all throughout college and obviously my adult life now. I'm like, oh my god, I'm an adult. Why did they allow me to become an adult? um because I'm not just a YouTuber. I overall consider myself as just a creative because I do so many different things now. I'm now working for an esports organization with Team Liquid. I've been exposed to not just music production but video production, and not just on a YouTube scale. I'm talking about like, I hate saying this but it's true, but like mainstream stuff, which is very interesting and still old school compared to like how people do it on YouTube. That's a conversation for a different time. But yeah, a lot of my career, at least with YouTube, has been spent throughout college and juggling college, YouTube. And here's a fun fact: I wanted to become a U.S. Marine as an officer in college, so I was in the NRTC program as well. So balancing all of that, I don't know how I did that. I actually dropped the program the year I was supposed to go to officer candidate school because I was just having so much more fun with YouTube. I was traveling to other places, not just for like Pokemon events, but VidCon. I went to my first E3 in 2015, and that was cool. I got to go to Disneyland for the first time. I got to meet so many creators and YouTubers that I looked up to, and then talking to gaming outlets as well. I'm like, oh my god, you're the dude that made that one Kotaku article about too much water. um, and then getting the chance to talk to YouTube employees as well and getting like insight on that, and then have them listen to my feedback as well. Whoop, whoop, I helped with some changes. And then getting a chance to like I met Reggie Fils-Aimé as well. I got to see Mr. Miyamoto-san at E3 as well. I went to a lot of different functions and events and saw like a not like things outside of Pokemon that I wasn't really aware of. I got exposed to so much within the overall gaming and technology space. I'm like, wow, being a nerd is kind of cool.
Mhm.
um, And then I don't think music ever left me because like I wanted to do more. So I wasn't just doing like Pokemon remixes. I was doing my own music as well. I was covering Sonic music as well. I got to meet with some people from Sega, be like, "Hey, you like my stuff? Cool." I actually was told that some people who worked really closely with Pokemon have listened to my music. I'm like, what do I say to that? I'm like, I hope they're not mad. um, and just meeting like so many different people, learning a lot of things, not just within just a creator space, but just in life. A lot of hard lessons learned as, you know, as one goes through life came from my exposure with YouTube and working with other people. So after I was done with college, I moved over to California so I can be closer to the industry. And honestly, that was such a smart move because I, again, met so many people, got exposed to so many different things. I started traveling and seeing the world that I wasn't able to see when I was younger. Um, and then getting exposed to different video games. I haven't played I never really played a FPS game until Overwatch came out. And I have gripes about the game, but if it wasn't for me playing Overwatch and being just so obsessed with the game, it got to the point where people in the Pokemon community were they were still making Pokemon content, but they were making Overwatch content. That's how big it was. And it got to the point where everyone in the community were playing games with each other. And I was asking literally anybody, anybody to just play 24/7 with me. So I would go to one friend group and then another friend group and then another friend group. And then it was like, I don't know, like one or two in the morning. And I just like, hey, anybody want to play Overwatch with me? Just add me on Discord. And someone messaged me, someone very important, dear and true to my heart, messaged me, be like, hey, you can add me on Discord. And that person actually ended up becoming my wife. All because I asked anybody in the Pokemon community want to play Overwatch with me. And I actually have a tattoo of this is Tracer's Pulse Bomb because she was my main, and because Overwatch had such a huge impact on my life. Not only did I meet my wife through that game, but I actually ended up meeting a lot of esports pros as well. Esports teams getting exposed to like so many different aspects. Like they all knew what Pokemon was, but I was just like, there's so much more. Oh my god. And you know, I'm just in living in California, making my content, doing a lot of things, going to different events, meeting people, learning so much just in life and as a creative in general. I was able to bring my then girlfriend at the time to live with me in California, and then the pandemic hit, and so we were just stuck at home, just making content, playing games, just try to keep us sane. And then it got to a point where I'm like, hey, you want to move back to where my home state? Because I don't think we need to be here in Los Angeles anymore. First of all, it's too expensive. For those of you who are still living in California, I know who you are and watching this video. How? um, and so we made the call to pack our stuff and make the big move to where we are now, to where we can be comfortable, create more content, live freely as well. And you know, it's just kind of been like amazing ever since. I wouldn't say I'm content because I always wanted I want more. I want to strive for more. I'm still learning, you know, as a person. You know, there's more Pokemon games being out, there's more games in general, more technology, more stuff that I'm still learning as a music producer. Every time I open up a project, I'm learning something new every day. Literally every time you're like, "Oh, what's that? What's this function? Oh, these two notes can make a cool chord. That's cool." Um and so gosh, life is weird. Life is weird. But yeah, honestly, a lot of stuff that led up to this moment, like right here, right now, has been incredible. And not only that, I actually got quite a few chances to meet some of the composers that I look up to, which is insane. And it makes me want to keep pushing hard in my craft and me as a person because I'm not always satisfied with what I'm doing. Like I'm like, cool, we did this. Move on to something else, make it even better. Be like, oh man, this kind of sucked. Let's move on to this and not do that again. Um, so I'm one to like always willing to learn and grow, even though you know criticism is tough. But I've learned to be like, you're not doing this to be a troll. You're doing this because you want me to succeed in something. So and yeah,
Mm.
that's kind of where I'm at. Like I'm doing a lot of different things. I have my hands in a lot of different skill sets, not just music, but just knowledge and being able to put things together. Like someone gives me a piece of bread and I make an entire dinner with it.
Well, I mean, is the best way to be, I think, constantly striving, constantly learning, and that's how you have had so much success. I'm sure it's, yeah, just trying to get the very most out of life. It's, as you say, sort of content, but also restless, I guess, is
Yeah.
the
Oh my god.
dichotomy to make there, yeah. And it's just phenomenal, isn't it? Back when, YouTube first became, well, YouTube was first launched, no one could
Yeah.
really have predicted that it would become in itself its own full-time career and just the opportunities that it could lead to. So yeah, I mean, had your finger on the pulse from a very early stage. So really fascinating to hear. And now it's time for you to fascinate us with the final Pokemon on your dream team. So who's going to be joining Meganium and Dragonair and Houndoom and Hitmontop and Golduck?
So it's tough because like I have a lot of Pokemon that have like squeaked into my favorites. Like Carablast is one of them, and it's
Mm.
literally because I caught a shiny of it in Pokemon Go, and I used the AR function. It literally looks like a little gremlin walked into the room, and he's like, "I threw up. Can you help me, mom? I threw up." I'm like, Carablast, you're so cute, but that's a Pokemon that's just off to the side. It's not even on the team. He just lives here. He just lives here. Um, but for the longest time, Flygon, I really have so much respect for Flygon, but I think Altaria
Mm.
squeaks past Flygon. And I did another playthrough of Pokemon Emerald. I actually traveled in Asia with Super Duper Danny for a couple projects. And I was playing Pokemon Emerald and documenting my progress in Emerald. And of course, had to get a Swablu. And I caught a Swablu, evolved it into Altaria, named it Sephiroth because I was playing Final Fantasy at the time. And again, I think it's the same reason as Dragonair, minus Claire, but Winona. I think Winona was another awakening when I was a kid. But it's blue, it's flying, which is another one of my favorite types, and it's dragon. I'm not a big fan of the mega so much because it's just fluffy. It's like it's just a fluffy dragon. But I don't know. Altaria is really awesome. I actually have a you can't see it, but up on my wall, I have a drawing from an artist that lives in Japan. Like we met randomly at Yokohama for Pokemon World, and we became really good friends. And she was sad that we were leaving Yokohama because we had to go back home. So as a both an engagement gift for me and my wife and a parting away gift, she drew for me. It's an Altaria uh drawing, and it has a shiny Swablu next to it, and it has like a little message written in English and a little bit of Japanese. And my wife, she got the Fue Coco drawing, but it's so cute. And I'm like, bro, I love Altaria. Like it's
Mm.
like if Dragonair had hair, it would look like Altaria.
Yeah, I've never thought of Altara as having hair, but I see what you mean. Yeah, the fluff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, what an incredible story. And I have the Dratini, you have the Dragonair, you have the Altaria, and I
Oh,
have the Swabbly. So there we go.
oh, let's go. It's a cheeky. I always, whenever I see Swablu, I think of it as just cheeky, cheeky, cheeky,
Yeah,
cheeky.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Swablu as well. And great that you have another dragon type on your team representing your favorite type. And so that means, Glitch, that your dream team is Meganium, Dragonair, and Houndoom, Hitmontop, Golduck, and
Oh.
Altaria. So now, Glitch, I'm going to have to ask you, if you had to choose one of these Pokemon to be your partner Pokemon, which would it be?
Partner Pokemon. Ooh, that's tough. So you remember how I said Dragonair is just lazy? I would probably leave Dragonair at home and I would take
Mm.
Meganium with me.
Wow, that is a curveball. That is a curveball. I really thought when you said Dragonair is your favorite, and then you started talking about it, yeah, just last moment, no, Meganium. is your partner Pokemon. Wow. Okay. So Dragonair, in your eyes, lazy, but then Meganium, what attributes does Meganium have that make it your partner?
So Meganium, from all the years I spent as a Chikorita, troubled Chikorita trainer, I've built confidence that Meganium will be that I got your back Pokemon. Like
Mm.
Dragonair got my back, but it'll take it like, I don't know, 2 hours to figure out what it wants to do in life. But Meganium, it gets access to a lot of healing type moves as well. So if I'm ever hurt or I'm feeling kind of down that day, I feel like Meganium will be there for me. I would also train it to, for whatever reason, I will give it egg moves. It'll have access to ancient power. Don't
Mm.
ask me why. Don't ask me how. It gets access to ancient power. It can hold its own in a battle after doing so many trial and errors with the move sets over the years. I don't know. I feel like I've built so much confidence in this Pokemon. It may not be the most powerful starter. Please give it a Mega and Legend CA Pokemon, please. But I don't know, because I just have so much faith in it, you know?
Mm. Okay.
So
Fair enough.
I feel like it's reliable for me.
And just
Dragonair,
briefly,
not so much.
yeah, just briefly, yeah. Where does this image Dragonair being lazy come from?
I don't know. I think so. Me and my wife, we always have this habit of like when we're just chilling on the couch, to be like, you know what? I feel like Kuya Coco would just be in the kitchen nomming on an apple. And I think the scenario is when we were just talking about Pokemon having around the house, like Carol Blast will live here and not necessarily be part of the team. You kind of see it in the anime where they're not necessarily Pokemon trainers, but they have a Pokemon in the house. Um, and so Dragnet would be trained, but I feel like it got so complacent that I wasn't going to evolve it into a Dragonite. And it's full, like, it's accepted that it's not going to be a Dragonite. It's cool with that. But I feel like it wouldn't have the need to work as hard and would just be on the couch,
I see.
large and in charge, eating everything in the fridge. It's like it has the belly of a Munchlax. But if I were to take Dragonair into like an important battle, it knows to get its stuff into gear, but regularly I feel like it has a lazy nature.
I mean, I can certainly see how Meganium having had to work to get its battle prowess. I can see where that comes from. So,
It's a
um,
baby pseudo, so it has that mentality of a pseudo
yeah,
legendary.
right, sure, yeah, powerhouse Pokemon. But yeah, so Meganium is going to be your partner Pokemon. Incredible.
Yeah.
And now, slightly different kind of question. If you were a Pokemon, what do you think you'd be?
Okay, so when you asked me this again yesterday, I literally went to my wife. I'm like, "Hey, what Pokemon do you think I would be?" And she repeated the question, and literally without hesitation, she said Rowlet. And I just laughed, like I barked laugh, and I'm like, you know what, you're not wrong. And I think this comes from the Pokemon Sun and Moon anime where Ash has a Rowlet, and that Rowlet has a personality. And I love Rowlet. You know what, you know what, this guy, this guy, look at him, round, lazy. I like lazy like me. I'm kind of lazy. I'm kind of lazy, and it's just vibes. It's just vibes, honestly. Just hold relic like this.
It's a very cute Pokemon for sure.
It's so cute. Oh my god.
um, okay, but then I'm not sure laziness really does apply to you. Um, what you're saying is you connect with Rowlet because of the personality in the anime.
I would say so, but I
Okay,
just love Rowlet in general per
okay.
se. It's just like it's not just vibes, it's a cute Pokemon. I actually didn't involve my Rowlet in my Pokemon Sun playthrough. I'm just like, Decidueye's cool, but I'm like, Rowlet's cute and cooler. Let's see if I can beat the game with Rowlet. And I did.
Mm.
I did.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, special connection there to Rowlet. And what do you all think? Do you agree that Glitch would be a Rowlet? Let us know in the comments because she especially, and also I, would be fascinated to hear if you think that Glitch should be a Rowlet. And speaking of you all, it's time for your community questions. I posted
Ooh.
online, as I always do, 4 questions for GlitchxCity. And thank you so much for submitting them. It was really hard to choose this week. I had some really fascinating questions, but we got there in the end. I apologize as ever if I mispronounce any of your names or handles. Good friend of mine, Lee Provost, Osiris VGC, would like to know if you were to create a signature track for any Pokemon, which would it be?
There's so many Pokemon.
Any
Oh,
of them. I guess which you feel has the strongest vibe about it, or it could be one of your own favorites. Yeah, up to you.
strongest. So I'm gonna probably go with the legendary Pokemon because legendary Pokemon are legendary to have themes associated with them. The first thing that comes to mind, honestly, is Dialga.
Mm.
And this is kind of trailing back to Mystery Dungeon, where uh, Primal Dialga was a thing and it had its own theme, which is probably one of the most recognizable themes in the history of Pokemon, honestly, in video games in general. Um, and honestly, if I were to create a theme for Dialga, I would definitely reference Primal Dialga. I would just make it a whole arrangement based off on those 5 notes.
This is so fascinating because another question that came in from another fellow VG caster here in EU, David Partington, was about this Primal Dialga theme and how you've incorporated it into some of your remixes. So you've inadvertently answered that question too. But that's a really cool one as well because, of course, as the Pokemon of time, you could do such interesting things in the music with
Yeah.
time, I guess, time signatures. That's fantastic. Okay, really good answer, Dialga. Thank you for that question, Lee. And now from Rich Taylor, Lithorium, what has been the most challenging remix you've made and what made it a challenge?
Oh man. Mm, I can't think of anything from past because I've done so much. But recently, specifically with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Penny's battle theme. And this is probably my fault as well, but also mostly the internet's fault. I'm like, internet, can you just stop talking for like 2 seconds and let me play the game? This happens with every new generation release or a new game release. Everyone wants to request the hypest battle theme for me to remix. And I stream my playthroughs on Twitch, and I feel like I'm not allowed to take my time anymore with my playthroughs. But Scarlet and Violet, I think I spent a good amount of time playing it, but I was still taking my time. And I think my first coverage of Scarlet and Violet that I uploaded, I think it was Nemona's battle theme or a wild battle theme, one of those two. And I think, yeah, I uploaded technically 3 Scarlet and Violet mixes, but one was a trailer release. Like when the second trailer dropped for the legendaries, I immediately remixed like the Paldea theme. But when the game's released, uh Nemona's theme was the first theme I heard first. I'm like, oh my god, I like this theme. It's so good. And then the South Province Area 5 theme, which I believe is a Toby Fox theme as well. I mixed those two. And I think on Amona specifically, people bone rush through the game. And in the comment section, people are like, you gotta remix Cassiopeia's. You gotta remix Penny's theme. I'm like, what? 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 And then as I'm streaming on Twitch, because I stream my playthroughs at night past the release, people just come to the chat, be like, when are you gonna remix so and so? And I'm like, I battle them? What? And then when I would rate people's stream, people would be like, so when are you gonna remix so and so? I'm like, what? And Penny was on the chopping block. Like, I haven't heard this theme. I tried to stay away from YouTube content for at least like the first week or so after a new Pokemon game drops, because you watch a video not related to the games at all, and in the recommended section, either on the side or after you finish the video, it shows you videos you should watch next right on that video. And I try not to fall for that. That's how I got spoiled to Pecharon. I'm like, Pecharon got a theme? What? um but everyone was asking for Penny for this generation. I think the previous generation it was Eternatus. I just didn't do Eternatus. And in Sun and Moon it was Necrozma. I eventually did Necrozma. But when it got to Penny, and it got like I did a whole stream where I was doing completely in-game, finishing all of the routes and doing Area 0. And so for I think it was the Team Star where you actually battle Penny. I'm like, chat's in emote mode because I'm like, y'all are put into jail. Y'all have been telling me to remix this theme. This theme better be good. And it was hardstyle in my Pokemon game. So what year is this? What are we doing hardstyle for? It's a banger. I'm not gonna lie. But this wasn't the first time I've been pressured to remix a theme from a game. And usually I hate it when it happens, but this was November, December, and that's usually a really good period on YouTube because the ad revenue is just through the roof because of holidays. So I'm like, all right, let me just knock this out. This will be the last mix I do for the year before I go on holiday. And I'm not gonna lie, it is not my best remix personally. It was one of those where like you just got to get it out, and a lot of creators go through this phase, especially when it comes to either a lull period in the Pokemon news cycle, or after the game has launched, where they don't really want to make the video that they want. They're not happy with how the video comes out. They're just going to put it out and move on to the next. And Penny was one of those. There are good moments in the mix. There are times I go back and listen to it, be like, yeah, okay. And I even put it in a couple of my DJ sets. But just getting it started, because I had to relearn how to do hardstyle. Basically, I haven't messed with hardstyle in like 6, 7, 8 years, and I'm just like, oh man, Pokemon. Like, I kind of made it a one-to-one remix just because of how prominent this theme was and how popular it was. And if I deviated from it too much, like I do with my other mixes, it just wouldn't go over as well. So I made it a pretty much one-to-one remix, and I'm just like, I guess just upload it and see what happens, just move on to the next thing. So it wasn't really the most challenging, but the one I wasn't the most happiest with. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah,
Internet.
it's a really intense battle theme, Penny's theme
It
from the
is,
game.
yeah.
So I can see how you're sort of not immediately aware of how you can remix it. Really, it's a difficult one to know what to do
Yeah.
something else with, I suppose. But that's a really interesting tale, and also good to get that insight from you know someone who's a very well established creator and getting that mindset
Yeah.
from what you're saying about lulls and so on. And feeling that need to get something out at points. So thank you for that question, Rich. Now from Lou Axos Chromie, Lou the Pikachu,
Oh.
another fellow VG caster. Which Pokemon region has provided your favorite collection of music?
So, ooh. If I say Sinnoh, it's such a cop out answer in my opinion. And if I say Johto, that's also a cop out.
Why are they
But
cop outs?
honestly, between Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh, like those three regions, uh, that's that's what made me me. And what's funny, I see that you have the region posters in your background. I have my three region posters, and V has her three region posters because we split the posters with our favorite regions. I got Sinnoh over here, Johto and Hoenn over here. Um, Oh, that's a tough answer. Honestly, the simplicity of Johto, I would say, has brought a lot of fond memories. Not just from childhood, but just going through Johto remixes in general, because I learned a lot musically through that. And I would also say Sinnoh. Sinnoh uses dual pianos in a lot of their
Mm.
music, and I'm big on piano. I have this giant piano here and this one over here, and I really loved how the Sinnoh route themes felt good. They felt really nice. We haven't had I would say, especially with the newer games, we haven't had like memorable route themes. Maybe South Area Province 5 and then obviously Area 0. But I feel like between Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh, the route themes specifically, I love those. Overworld themes
Mm.
are my favorite. Like people always go off about like the battle themes, which I think Scarlet and Violet had the best battle themes, hands down. But I think those three regions had the best route themes, and I love
Mm.
overall themes as a whole. Sinnoh really just really hammered home those overworld themes. Like every single route felt different because of the music, and they reflected how the route is. So Route 201, a good starting route. Usually you have like hippity hoppity bouncy bouncy happy theme, a light theme, which coincides with like the first, I would say, five generations. Gen 6, it gets a little, it's a little, I got beef with Gen 6. Um, and then once you get past Orberg,
Mm.
no, past Jubilife and you're on your way to Floroma, you get a little more adventurous, a little going through the grass, and you have like the water on the side, and you're going on your way to Floroma, and then you hit Eternity. That's great. But you go a little bit towards the right of Eternity, and you have this more adventurous tune. Not necessarily Route 210 yet. We haven't gotten there yet. But it's more of a like, you're in a little bit of an intermediate phase. Like, you've gotten past the beginning of the game, and now you're just like, you're going up the mountain. Oh, the first entrance to Mount Coronet, can't get anywhere yet. And then you get to Hearthome, which is like another hub in Sinnoh. Very nice. But you get to Route 209. Best route theme ever. It kind of rivals with Route 113 and rivals with Route 10 from Unova, but I will like, it is my second favorite route theme behind Route 4 from Kanto, even though it's a basic theme, but it's my favorite one. But Route 209 from the Sinnoh region, it is so musically good. Oh my god. I think they did a phenomenal job with it in the originals. They did a phenomenal job of the anime arrangement, because the anime usually takes the game's theme and arranges it for the anime. BDSP had a fantastic arrangement as well. And you hear it again in little snippets in Legends Arceus. Not necessarily the full thing, but when I first heard it in Arceus, I'm like, I'm gonna cry. But I always associate Route 209 with more of a like, it's still adventurous, but you're entering like this wondrous land, and it plays in about three different routes within Sinnoh. So you got the north portion, the south portion, and the eastern portion as well. And they do a good, like, that thing does a good job reflecting each of those pieces of the region. And so I think I just answered the question. I think Sinnoh.
Yeah.
Sinnoh.
I think you did.
I'm about to go through the entire region.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's not a cop out at all. That I think your heart really came through. Your heart really came home there with Sinnoh. 209, is that the one that's like dun 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 dun
Yes.
dun 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 dun?
Yes,
dun,
it's
dun.
like,
Yeah.
it's so warm and fuzzy. It's so good.
Yeah, it's really good. And then Route 4 in Kanto, correct me if I'm wrong, what I want to say is that's also my favorite.
Oh my god, yes. Yes. I will stand by this to this day. There's about like 6-7 different arrangements of it, but the fire red and leaf green arrangement, the best. Right behind it, the anime arrangement.
It's I get emotional whenever I hear it, even though I've heard it millions of times. But it's interesting you say for battle music you think Generation 9 has the edge, and I totally see where you're coming from, but for me the Generation 8 gym leader music theme will always be top tier.
That's probably the best gym leader battle theme, like,
maybe
of all time. Joker's right behind it.
Well, fascinating to get your perspective on that, and thank you for that question, Lou. And our final question from the one and only Absol Blogs Pokemon, Matt Brandle wants to know: have you ever encountered a place playing your music in the wild, and how surreal does that feel?
So yes, and it's mostly in local card shops. I would walk in, I'm like, oh, okay, all right, just making sure, because sometimes it takes me a while. I'm like, is that me? Another instance would be there will be a couple times where I'm at mostly Pokemon events, but other gaming events. People would walk around with speakers, the JBL speakers, and they would just play music. I'm here like, da, 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 and I'm like, is that me? But I don't think anything will top this moment. So there is a YouTube channel that is called Terminal Montage, and he makes like these crazy animations with a lot of Nintendo games. And so this was in 2019. I was living in California at the time, and I had my wife with me, or my girlfriend at the time with me. And I was just like, oh, Terminal Montage just uploaded because we were both fans of his channel. And so the upload that he put out, the video that he put out was the legendary Pokemon Legendary Battle Royale, because Battle Royales were like, the thing at the time. And we're watching the video, and it gets to a point where Mewtwo is losing, and then it becomes like Necrozma shows up, like base Necrozma shows up, and then Necrozma goes into space and sees Solgaleo, because Solgaleo, the whole thing was Sun and Moon. Necrozma absorbs light, whatever. And then me and my wife pause because we hear something very familiar in the background of that video. And I'm like, let's go back. Let's go back. And then we play it again. And it was my Ultra Necrozma remix, which, by the way, it was another one of those where people were pressuring me to do. And it's a meme for me at this point. I got beef with Necrozma because of that, but that's a different story for later. But that video played my Ultra Necrozma mix. And mind you, his channel has millions and millions of subscribers. And I actually checked not too long ago, that video that has my mix in it is his most popular video with 63 million views. And so my Ultra Necrozma remix, it got credited, and I was like in the video and stuff, I was like, oh my God, what? First of all, realizing that my mix is playing in a YouTube channel that I watch like on the regular, I'm just like, that's so cool. Cause like people use my music all the time. That's cool. But just having like someone that's in the space, but not necessarily in the space, know who you are and know of your work, that's a different level. But because of that video, his most popular video that is getting close to 100 million views, my video just got a huge spike in views, and it still gets comments from that video saying came here from Terminal Montage. Oh my God, that part was great. And now that video is my second most popular video. It is closing in on Cynthia at an alarming rate. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be Cynthia. What do I do? So to answer Matt's question, shout out to Matt. Yes, and honestly, the most outrageous thing that I've heard my music in had to be Terminal Montage's video. I don't think I will ever reach that peak ever again, but I could say that. I could say that.
It certainly sounds like that is quite the tale behind that video. And yeah, shout out to Matt, of course, as you say, someone I featured on the podcast a few weeks back too, as well as Lee, who asked the very first question there, was my very first guest on the show. Wow, well, that just added a whole new level to getting to know you, Glitch. So thank you so much for your really insightful answers there, and thank you so much for your questions. If you want to submit a question for a future guest on Chazingdra Chats, then keep an eye on my socials at Chazingdra. So then, Glitch, we've heard a lot about you up to now. Now I want to know what's next for you.
Oh. Honestly, I have a lot of my hands in different things. Some stuff I'm not able to talk about yet, which I'm excited to whenever that comes around. But overall, I'm working on my second channel, which is the Glitch Log. So I'm everything that I wanted to do on my current music channel, I wasn't able to do because, YouTube is weird when you mix different types of content these days. Different story from 10 years ago where you can just upload whatever on there. But Glitch Logs is my second outlet for Pokemon content where I storytell like a lot of my adventures and experiences. So like my TCG experience and then my VGC experience recently. One of the first videos I uploaded was how I got my shiny Arceus and Brilliant Diamond in such insane odds. And I have a lot of other videos in the pipeline as well. My Safari Week video is currently being worked on. Oh boy. Oh God, Safari Week. You're so, yep. So I'm really excited about that project. It's just another creative outlet for me. If that channel somehow beats my current channel in the next year or so, I'm gonna have to reevaluate my life choices. Always working on music. I actually just released a video game lo-fi Kirby album with another lo-fi artist. So that came out really well. That was a long work in progress, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. And so also working on continuously updating my current live stream, which is a 24/7 lo-fi radio. So it's not just Pokemon. I touch up on Animal Crossing. I'm working on a couple other hint hint wink wink albums to put up on there as well. A lot of music projects. I'm also working on. Oh wait, I can't talk about that either. Dang. Just know there's a lot of stuff in the background I can't talk about, but I got my hands in different buckets, which is what I can say.
Well, I think the main thing to take away from that is we're all so excited to see what these projects are, and we're so excited to see them come to fruition as well. So that's fantastic. And also, all the noises you made just then about Safari Week, I'm right there with you. Right there with you. 50k plus encounters and no shiny. Oh, yeah. Okay. Finally, Glitch, looking back from now as such a well-respected music producer, be it for Pokemon or other games or other things generally, all the way back to the young Glitch who decided that family reunion, you know what, I'm just going to play some notes on the piano. What advice would you give that younger you?
If you genuinely have an interest in something, try to learn about it as much as you can. I think I tell this to a lot of people too that be like, what advice? I'm like, if you have an interest in something and it becomes a passion, literally learn everything you can about it. Learn as much as you can. And if there's something that you want to do, be like, oh, I can't do this or this and this and this. I'm like, you better make time. If you have a genuine interest in something, go for it. Because the only thing that's really holding you back is yourself. Obviously there's like little blips there, but if you really want to make it happen, you will find a way to make it happen.
Inspirational words indeed. Listen to the heart, and it will tell you what you want to achieve. I think that's such useful advice, and just goes to show, you refer to what you do as your craft, and just the iceberg, what you see on top, the latest remix you put out. That's just the tip. But then everything that's gone into it, all your years of experience, your years of honing your craft, that's what people don't see, but is it's manifested in all of the content that you put out. So thank you so much for that fantastic advice, Glitch. And the chat doesn't end there, because we're about to get into GlitchxCity's Rapidash round. 15 or so minutes worth of bonus questions that Glitch hasn't prepared for. Questions like, what's her favorite of her remixes? If you could play for any artist or band in the world ever, which would it be? And who are your heroes? We tend to go that little bit deeper in the Rapidash round and discover that we've barely scratched the surface in the main episode. So it will be a pleasure to see you there if you can make it. You can find it on my Patreon, where you can support me as a creator. There's so many hours of content there just from bonus content for a very, very reasonable price. So we'd love to see you over there if you can make it. But fundamentally, really appreciate you for listening to this episode, and I hope you enjoyed. So no worries either way. Glitch, thank you so much for coming on to Chazingdra Chats. It's been so eye-opening, so fascinating to have you on, and I know that this is going to be an episode that people will keep coming back to, keep learning from. So just thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your insight.
Yeah, of course. I love to talk about Pokemon.
Well, exactly, and we love to hear you talk about it. And if people want to keep up with you online, Glitch, where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube. youtube.com/GlitchxCity. Also, my second channel, youtube.com/The Glitch Logs. It's like vlogs, but it's a log. You get it? Also, if you want to support me and my music, you can find about a good 85% of my music on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and all my stuff is available for free to download on SoundCloud. And if you want to also extra support my craft and everything I do, Patreon is a thing. Support this guy on Patreon too. Support Charlie on Patreon. If you have a favorite creators, make sure to support them outside on YouTube. Mm-hmm.
That was masterful. Thank you, Glitch. Well, you make sure that you're supporting Glitch as well, because such incredible work that Glitch does. And if you've enjoyed the show, you know what's coming. Do drop a like. Do subscribe. All of these things do go such a long way. Drop a comment as well. If you're listening on Spotify, hop over to YouTube to do that. Because Glitch has given us so much food for thought and would love to know your thoughts on that. Would also love to know what your own dream team of 6 Pokemon would be. So do let us both know. Are any of Glitch's picks your favorite Pokemon as well? All of that. And also on my YouTube channel, I stream. I'm currently so deep into streaming Safari Week, I don't even want to talk about it. I also vlog the events that I commentate as a competitive Pokemon video game commentator and host caster. So would love to see you over there. There's bound to be something for everyone there. If you're a fan of the Pokemon video games, it is the place for you. And if you enjoyed the show and you want to spread the word about it, you can use the hashtag 6Pokemon 1Life As I said at the very start, the aim is to have as broad a range of guests on as possible. So the sky's the limit, and hopefully there is something for everyone in the show. And you can let me know any guest suggestions via the socials that I mentioned at Chazingdra or chazingdra@gmail.com. Do let me know. I've got my Discord community link below as well. Chazindra's Chocolate Factory. It would be brilliant to see you in there. All right then. Glitch, thank you for bearing with me during that spiel. It's time for your Rapidash round. And if you're not joining us over on Patreon for that, then it's goodbye from Glitch.
Goodbye.
I promise that was Glitch. He wasn't just sort of replaced by a robot there. That was the real
glitch in the
GlitchxCity.
system.
And it's goodbye from me. See you next time on Chazingdra Chats, where there'll be another 6 Pokemon, 1 life story. Glitch, Courtney, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's start with the ones that I teased at the end of the episode there. So what is